Go. My name is Amelia Davis and I'm 34 years old. I never thought I'd see my family again after what happened 12 years ago, but here they were standing on my penthouse doorstep with briefcases and forced smiles. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and share where you're watching from in the comments. Now let's go back to the story. Amelia, baby girl. Aunt Delilah squealed, arms stretched wide like we were long-lost best friends. Behind her stood Uncle Ezra, Cousin Gracie, and 3 other relatives I barely recognized. All dressed in their Sunday best, clutching leather folders like holy books. My stomach dropped. They only showed up when they wanted something, and given my recent pharmaceutical patent worth $800 million had been all over the news, I knew exactly what that something was. "What do you want?" I asked, not moving from my doorway. My security guard, Sam, stepped closer, sensing the tension. "Now that's no way to greet family," Uncle Ezra boomed, his gold tooth catching the hallway light. "We heard about your success and we're so proud. We always knew you'd make it big." The lies rolled off his tongue so smoothly. These were the same people who'd prayed I'd disappear forever when I left home at 17 with nothing but a backpack and a dream. The same people who'd called me worthless, crazy, and destined for failure. Gracie held up her folder. "We brought some paperwork. Investment opportunities. Family business ventures. You know how it is, blood is thicker than water, right?" I laughed bitterly. "Blood? You mean the same blood that told me I'd never amount to nothing? The same blood that kicked me out for pursuing my dreams?" Their smiles faltered slightly, but Ezra stepped forward. "Baby girl, that was a long time ago. We were young, we made mistakes. Family forgives, right? Besides, we got plans. Big plans for all of us." As they stood there with their fake smiles and designer clothes, memories crashed over me like a tsunami. I was 17 again, standing in Aunt Delilah's living room with my acceptance letter to pre-med college, tears streaming down my face. "College? You think you're better than us?" Delilah had screamed, snatching the letter from my hands. "Your mama died broke and you gonna end up just like her? A failure with big dreams and empty pockets." Uncle Ezra had nodded along, bottle of beer in hand. "Chemistry? Go, you barely passed high school. You think white folks gonna let some project girl play scientist? You delusional." But the worst came from Gracie, my own cousin, my former best friend. "Amelia thinks she's special," she'd announced to everyone at our family gathering. "Walking around here with her books and her fancy words. Aunt Delilah, you need to humble this girl before she embarrasses the whole family." That night they'd made their position clear. Stay in line, get a regular job, stop dreaming big, or get out. They'd literally gathered in a circle, holding hands, and prayed that if I was too proud to listen to family wisdom, maybe I'd disappear forever and stop bringing shame on the family name. I'd left that night with $17, a backpack of clothes, and a heart full of determination mixed with devastating hurt. Now, 12 years later, they stood before me like none of that had ever happened. Like those prayers hadn't nearly destroyed me. Like I hadn't spent years in therapy dealing with the trauma of my own blood turning against me. "We were protecting you," Delilah said softly, as if reading my thoughts. "Sometimes love looks like tough love. We didn't want you to get hurt chasing impossible dreams." Impossible dreams? I stepped back, gesturing to my penthouse apartment, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, marble floors, original artwork lining the walls. "You mean like developing a breakthrough cancer treatment that's saving thousands of lives? Like building a pharmaceutical empire from nothing? Those impossible dreams." Sam cleared his throat behind me. Even he knew this story. How I'd worked 3 jobs while putting myself through college, how I'd lived on ramen noodles and determination, how I'd spent countless nights in the lab perfecting formulas while my peers partied. Ezra shifted uncomfortably. "Baby, we always believed." "Stop lying." The words exploded from me. "You prayed I'd disappear. You told everyone at church I was possessed by pride demons. You said my mother would be ashamed of me if she were alive." Gracie's voice was smaller now. "Amelia, we were scared for you. The streets are hard for girls like us. We see so many young black women get their hearts broken chasing dreams that ain't meant for them." "Dreams that ain't meant for us?" I laughed harshly. "You mean dreams that required work? Sacrifice? Actually believing we deserve more than scraps?" The painful irony wasn't lost on me. While they'd been praying for my disappearance, I'd been praying for their acceptance. While they'd been planning my failure, I'd been planning their rescue. hoping that one day I'd be successful enough to lift the whole family up. But their presence here told a different story. They hadn't come to apologize or reconnect. They'd come to collect. Aunt Delilah opened her folder with shaking hands. "We got a business proposal, baby. A way for all of us to benefit from your blessing. God don't want you to be selfish with your gifts." "God?" I raised an eyebrow. "The same God you asked to make me disappear?" I reluctantly let them into my living room, curious to see just how audacious they'd be. They spread their documents across my Italian marble coffee table like war strategists planning an invasion. "This here is a family investment fund," Ezra began, his voice taking on the tone of a seasoned con man. "You invest $10 million and we handle all the business development. Restaurants, beauty salons, maybe some real estate. We split the profits 50-50. I picked up the contract, scanning the fine print. 50-50? I put up $10 million and we split profits equally. Well, Gracie jumped in, there's administrative fees, management costs, operational expenses. By the time we handle all that, 50-50 is more than fair." Aunt Delilah pulled out another folder. "This one's my personal favorite. Delilah's Divine Cuisine, a chain of soul food restaurants. I always was the best cook in the family. With your money behind me, we could have 20 locations within 2 years." I read her proposal. She wanted $12 million for a 60% stake in her theoretical restaurant empire. The woman who once told me I couldn't boil water without burning it now wanted to be a restaurant mogul with my money. But the most insulting document came from my youngest cousin, Malik, barely 21 with no business experience whatsoever. His proposal was for something called Ezra Entertainment Group, a record label that would discover the next generation of hip-hop superstars. $15 million, I read aloud. For a record company. Run by someone who's never worked in music, managed a business, or even held a steady job. Malik puffed up his chest. "Cousin, you don't understand the culture. The streets know talent when they see it. All I need is startup money, and I'll triple your investment within a year." Their delusion was breathtaking. Between all their proposals, they wanted nearly $50 million. And not one of them had a realistic business plan, relevant experience, or even a clear understanding of what they were asking for. As I sat there surrounded by their ridiculous proposals, something inside me snapped. These weren't business opportunities. They were elaborate schemes to legally rob me blind, dressed up in family loyalty and guilt. "Let me get this straight," I said, my voice deadly calm. "Y'all spent 12 years telling everyone I'd never amount to anything. You prayed for me to disappear. You kicked me out with nothing. And now you want $50 million to fund your fantasy businesses." The room went quiet. Even Sam, standing by the door, looked uncomfortable. Uncle Ezra cleared his throat. "Now, Amelia, family is family. We made mistakes, sure, but that's in the past. This is about moving forward together. Building generational wealth." Generational wealth? I stood up, pacing to my floor-to-ceiling windows. Where was this concern for generational wealth when I was sleeping in my car during college? Where was family loyalty when I was eating one meal a day to afford textbooks? Delilah's voice turned sharp. "We didn't know you were struggling. If you had reached out." "I did reach out." I spun around, fury building in my chest. "I called you when I was evicted from my first apartment. I called when I couldn't afford groceries. I called when I was in the hospital with pneumonia and had no emergency contacts. You know what you told me? Figure it out yourself. You made your bed, now lie in it." Gracie shifted uncomfortably. "We were teaching you independence." "No," I said firmly. "You were punishing me for refusing to accept limitations. You were punishing me for believing I deserved more than what you settled for." Ezra stood up, his tone becoming threatening. "Look here, little girl. We family whether you like it or not. You got an obligation to take care of your people. Your mama would be ashamed of how selfish you're being." That was it. The final straw. My mother. The woman who'd worked 3 jobs to put me through high school, who died believing I'd do something special with my life, had just been weaponized against me by the same people who'd spent years dishonoring her memory. "Don't you dare bring my mother into this," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "The same woman you talked about like a dog when she was alive. The same woman whose funeral half of y'all didn't even attend." The accusation hung in the air like smoke. They'd all loved to criticize Mama when she was struggling, working multiple jobs, trying to raise me right in impossible circumstances. Your mama was always reaching too high, Delilah had said at the funeral. Maybe if she'd been more realistic about her place in the world, she wouldn't have stressed herself into an early grave. But now they wanted to invoke her memory to guilt me into funding their schemes. Mama believed in me when none of y'all did, I continued, walking to my mantelpiece where her picture sat in a golden frame. She worked herself to death so I could have a chance. And you know what she told me the last time I saw her in that hospital bed? They were all silent now, sensing they'd crossed a line. She said, "Baby, don't let nobody make you small. Not even family. Sometimes the people who share your blood are the ones who'll try hardest to clip your wings." She was talking about y'all. I picked up Mama's picture, holding it close. She told me that if I ever made it big, I shouldn't feel guilty about leaving behind people who never believed in me. She said success without support from family might be lonely, but it's better than sharing your blessings with people who would have celebrated your failure. Gracie was crying now, but I wasn't finished. So don't sit in my house, surrounded by the wealth I built from nothing, and tell me what Mama would want. Mama would want me to remember where I came from, sure. But she'd also want me to remember how y'all treated me when I needed family most. The temperature in the room had shifted. Their confident smiles were gone, replaced by uncomfortable fidgeting and avoided eye contact. Ezra tried one more time. "Amelia, we're sorry about the past. But holding grudges ain't healthy. We want to make it right." I laughed bitterly. Make it right? With my money? Just then my phone rang. It was Dr. Patricia Henderson, the head of oncology at the city's largest hospital. I'd been expecting her call. The latest clinical trial results for my cancer treatment were due today. "Excuse me," I said to my unwanted guests and stepped into my home office. Through the glass doors they could see me taking the call but couldn't hear the conversation. "Amelia, the results are extraordinary," Dr. Henderson's voice came through clearly. 93% response rate. We're talking about a complete paradigm shift in cancer treatment. The FDA fast-track approval is practically guaranteed. This isn't just a breakthrough, it's a miracle. I felt tears prick my eyes. "Dr. Henderson, you have no idea what this means to me." "I think I do," she replied warmly. "Your mother would be so proud. I remember you telling me how she always said you'd change the world one day. Well, congratulations, Dr. Davis. You just did." When I hung up and returned to the living room, my relatives were whispering among themselves, trying to read my expression. The irony was perfect. While they sat in my home plotting how to spend my money, I'd just received confirmation that my life's work would save thousands more lives. "Good news?" Aunt Delilah asked hopefully, probably thinking it meant more money for their schemes. "The best," I replied. "My cancer treatment just achieved a 93% success rate in clinical trials. Thousands of people will live because of work I did in laboratories while y'all were praying for my failure." The weight of that statement settled over the room. While they'd been asking God to remove me from their lives, I'd been working to extend other people's lives. While they'd been focused on my limitations, I'd been busy exceeding every expectation. Ezra cleared his throat. "Well, that's wonderful news, baby girl. All the more reason why we should partner up on these business opportunities. Strike while the iron's hot." Their selfishness was absolutely stunning. Even faced with evidence of my life-saving work, they could only think about what it meant for their bank accounts. "You know what?" I said, walking to another wall of photos. "Let me show y'all something." The wall displayed pictures from my real family, my chosen family. There was Dr. Harris, my mentor who'd stayed in the lab with me until 3 a.m. countless nights, helping me perfect formulas when I couldn't afford a research assistant. There was Mrs. Walker, my elderly neighbor who'd brought me homemade meals during graduate school when she noticed I was getting too thin. "This is Rodriguez." I pointed to a picture of a young Latino man in a lab coat. His family immigrated here with nothing. I mentored him through his PhD, and now he's developing treatments for childhood diabetes. When he got his first patent, he sent me a card that said, "Thank you for believing in someone else's impossible dream." I moved to another photo. This is Angela. I met her when she was a homeless teenager. Smart as hell, but the system had failed her. I paid for her education, and now she's a chemical engineer working on clean water solutions for underserved communities. My voice grew stronger with each story. This is Dr. James, Dr. Wilson, Dr. Patel. All young scientists from backgrounds like mine who needed someone to believe in them when their own families told them to aim lower. Gracie was staring at the photos with something that looked like shame. Amelia, you help all these people? I invest in people who dream big and work hard, I replied. People who don't let anyone tell them they can't change the world. People who understand that success isn't just about getting rich, it's about lifting others up while you climb. I pointed to the largest photo, a group picture from our last lab celebration. These people celebrate my victories because they were there during my struggles. They earned their place in my life through loyalty, support, and shared sacrifice. The contrast was obvious. While my biological family had shown up with their hands out after my success was public, my chosen family had been there through every failure, every breakthrough, every moment of doubt. This is what real family looks like, I continued. People who believe in you before you make it big. People who support your dreams even when they seem impossible. Uncle Ezra's face was turning red. He wasn't used to being lectured, especially not by the girl he'd once called too stupid to pour water out of a boot. You think you better than us, he snarled, his mask finally slipping completely. All this education done made you forget where you came from. We your blood, Amelia. These strangers don't care about you like we do. Care about me? I laughed harshly. Where was that care when I was 19 and homeless? Where was that care when I called y'all crying because I couldn't afford my diabetes medication? Delilah tried to play peacemaker. Baby, we didn't know things were that bad. You knew. I exploded. You all knew. But you were too busy being right about my impossible dreams to actually help. You were too invested in my failure to offer support. Gracie finally found her voice. Maybe we were wrong about some things. But we're here now trying to make it right. With contracts. I gestured wildly at their paperwork. Y'all didn't come here to apologize. You didn't come to reconnect. You came to cash in. You brought lawyers and business proposals before you brought genuine remorse. Ezra stood up, his voice booming. We spent money on those lawyers. We put together professional presentations. We trying to do this right and you acting like we begging. You are begging. I shot back. Expensive begging, but begging nonetheless. You want $50 million from someone you haven't spoken to in 12 years. Someone you actively prayed against. Someone whose success you never believed in. The room was electric with tension. Sam took a step forward, but I waved him back. I could handle this myself. And let's be real about what's happening here, I continued, my voice getting stronger. Y'all don't want to partner with me. Y'all want to use me. Every one of these contracts puts me at financial risk while guaranteeing y'all money regardless of whether these businesses succeed or fail. Aunt Delilah's voice turned cold. Family is supposed to take care of family, Amelia. Your success ain't just yours. It belongs to all of us. That's how it's always been in our community. Our community? I walked closer to them and something in my energy made them all take a step back. The same community that told me I was getting too big for my britches when I graduated valedictorian? The same community that said I was trying to be white when I got into college. My voice dropped to a whisper, but every word cut like a blade. Let me tell y'all something about community. Real community doesn't wait until you're successful to claim you. Real community doesn't show up with contracts and expectations. Real community shows up with casseroles and encouragement when you're struggling. I moved to my bar area, pouring myself a glass of water with steady hands. They were all watching me now like they'd never seen me before, and they hadn't. The scared, desperate 17-year-old they'd kicked out was gone, replaced by a woman who'd built an empire from their rejection. You want to talk about what I owe the community? Fine. Let's talk numbers. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through my banking app. Last year, I donated $4 million to scholarship programs for kids from backgrounds like mine. I funded 3 community health clinics in underserved neighborhoods. I sponsored 50 young scientists through graduate school. Their mouths fell open at the numbers. I employed over 300 people in my research facilities, prioritizing hiring from our community. I've invested in 8 minority-owned businesses, not as handouts, but as strategic partnerships with people who had solid business plans and track records. Gracie whispered, for $1 million? In 1 year, I confirmed. And that's just the official charitable giving. That doesn't count the individual people I've helped, the mentoring programs I've funded, the the emergency assistance I've provided to families in crisis. Ezra looked sick. You've been doing all this and we didn't even know? Because I don't do it for recognition, I replied. I do it because it's right. Because I remember what it feels like to need help and have nowhere to turn. Because I understand the difference between deserving assistance and demanding it. The power dynamic had completely flipped. They'd come here thinking they held some kind of moral authority over me, some claim to my success based on shared DNA. But now they were seeing the full scope of what they'd missed, not just my wealth, but my character, my values, my actual commitment to community that went far beyond biological obligation. I sat down across from them, suddenly feeling exhausted. The adrenaline was wearing off, replaced by a deep sadness for what could have been. Here's what I don't understand, I said quietly. Y'all had a front row seat to watch me grow up. You saw my grades, my work ethic, my determination. You saw how I bounced back from every setback, how I refused to give up even when everyone doubted me. What made you think I wouldn't succeed? The question hung in the air like incense. For the first time all day, they looked genuinely thoughtful rather than defensive or opportunistic. Aunt Delilah's voice was small when she finally spoke. We were scared for you. The world is hard on girls like us, especially ones who dream big. We've seen too many young people get their hearts broken chasing things that seemed out of reach. So instead of supporting me, you tried to break my heart first? I asked. Instead of believing in me, you decided to crush my dreams before the world could? Gracie was crying openly now. We thought if we could make you accept a smaller life, you'd be safer. Happier. We didn't want you to get hurt. But you hurt me instead, I said simply. The people who were supposed to be my safety net became the ones I needed safety from. Ezra cleared his throat. Maybe we were wrong about some things. Some things. I stood up, walking to my windows again. The city sprawled below us, glittering with possibilities that my family had once told me would never be mine. You were wrong about everything. My intelligence, my potential, my character, my future. Everything. I turned back to face them. But here's what kills me. Even after being wrong about everything, even after 12 years of silence, even after praying for my disappearance, y'all still think you have the right to walk into my life and make demands. The truth was settling over them like fog. They'd come here expecting to find the same desperate girl they'd rejected years ago, someone who would be grateful for their attention and eager to prove her worth through generosity. Instead, they'd found a woman who'd built her own empire and family, who didn't need their validation or approval. What do you want from us? Delilah asked finally. It was the first honest question any of them had asked all day. I looked at each of them, really looked. Aunt Delilah, who'd once been like a mother to me. Uncle Ezra, who'd taught me to ride a bike. Cousin Gracie, who'd been my best friend until jealousy poisoned our relationship. They weren't monsters, just flawed humans who'd let fear and limited thinking guide their choices. I want you to understand something, I said finally. Success without support is possible, but it changes you. When you're forced to build everything alone, you learn to trust your own judgment above everyone else's. You learn that other people's opinions of your potential don't define your reality. I walked to my desk, pulling out a checkbook. I want you to understand that I could write each of you a check right now that would change your lives forever. 6 figures, 7 figures, pocket change to me at this point. Their eyes lit up with hope. But I'm not going to do that, I continued, and their faces fell. Not because I'm cruel, but because unearned money won't fix what's broken between us. Money won't undo 12 years of believing I wasn't worth supporting. Money won't teach you the difference between family obligation and family relationship. I sat back down, my voice gentle but firm. If y'all had come here with genuine apologies, with interest in rebuilding our relationship, with acknowledgement of how your actions affected me, that would have been different. But you came with contracts and expectations and demands. Gracie whispered, what if we apologize now? What if we try to make it right? Then that would be beautiful, I replied honestly. But it would still be because you want something from me, not because you genuinely regret hurting me. Real apologies don't come with price tags attached. Uncle Ezra looked defeated. So that's it? You're just writing us off. I'm not writing anyone off, I said. I'm just not letting anyone write themselves into my success story who wasn't there for the struggle chapters. I'm not letting anyone demand a seat at my harvest table who wouldn't help me plant seeds. The room was quiet except for Gracie's soft crying. Here's what I'll offer, I said finally. If anyone wants to genuinely rebuild our relationship, no money involved, no business deals, just family reconnection, I'm open to that. But it would have to start with genuine accountability and authentic apology. It would have to be about relationship, not resources. One by one, they gathered their contracts and proposals. The dream of easy money was over, but maybe something more valuable could begin. Aunt Delilah paused at the door. Amelia, I am sorry. Not for what I want from you now, but for what I didn't give you then. You were just a baby and you needed us and we failed you. Her words were simple, but they carried the weight of genuine remorse. For the first time all day, I felt a crack in the wall I'd built around my heart. Thank you, I said softly. That means more to me than you know. Gracie hugged me awkwardly before leaving. Maybe we could get coffee sometime? Just to talk? No business stuff, just catching up. I nodded. I'd like that. Uncle Ezra was the last to leave. He stood in my doorway for a long moment, looking around at the life I'd built without him. I was wrong, he said simply. About you, about your dreams, about everything. You made it, baby girl. You really made it. Yes, I replied. I did. After they left, I stood in my living room surrounded by the success they'd once prayed would never come. But the victory felt different now, not bitter or lonely but complete. I'd faced my past, set my boundaries, and opened the door to possible healing without compromising my dignity or my hard-won wisdom. My phone buzzed with a text from Angela, one of my chosen family. How did it go with your relatives? You okay? I smiled, typing back. Better than expected. Turns out forgiveness and boundaries can coexist. Who you? Outside my windows, the city sparkled with infinite possibility. I'd built this empire not despite my family's rejection but because of it. Their prayers for my disappearance had taught me to make myself undeniable. Their doubt had become my determination. And now, for the first time in 12 years, genuine reconciliation seemed possible. Not because they needed my money, but because we all finally understood the difference between being family and acting like family. The girl they'd prayed would disappear had become the woman who could choose to reappear in their lives on her own terms. That felt like the greatest victory of all. So that's my story. I know it sounds crazy, but I swear this all really happened. Do you think I was wrong to put my foot down, or would you have done the same thing?